Hello, everyone. Welcome to Switchcraft, a fingerboard podcast. My name is Jana, and this time I have a guest from the United States again. Say hello to Levine from USA Fingerboard League.
Hey, my name is Levine Cunningham with the United States Fingerboarding League. I am super honored to be on this Switchcraft Fingerboard podcast. It's been something I've been kind of wanting to do for quite some time. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and this also brings me to a bit of housekeeping I have to do before we jump into the actual episode. We've been planning to do this for quite a while, and then I spontaneously decided to take a hiatus, or didn't really decide, it just happened that way. From now on, I probably try to keep it at one episode per month and not two per month as previous. And yeah, but I try to keep it regular again. And yeah, you will hear from me in the future. So let's just get this on. So first of all, thank you for waiting on me, and sorry for keeping you that long. Um, when I first saw that you were starting the United States Fingerboard League, it got me really excited because I don't think this has been done for pretty much as long as I've been in the scene. Like when I came to the German scene, there was a German, the Deutsche Meisterschaft, it was called, the German Championship, and that one was done over multiple stops, only in Germany. And in Germany, you can drive from one end to the other in like 10 hours. In the States, it's much bigger. And so they stopped doing that, I think, in 2004, and then did the German Championship instead at one big event, which was usually uh, the Fast Fingers in Schwarzenbach, where Black River is from. So when I saw that you were doing a fingerboard league, I was like, my first thought was, that's cool. My second thought was, that must be a lot of work to coordinate something like that amongst like such a big country.
It is a lot of work. A little bit about myself, I guess, just to kind of kick things off, just so that people kind of know
Hmm.
a little bit about me and like who I am, what my background and stuff like that is, and I went to school. I got an MBA. I've got major in a basically finance. So I got an accounting background, minor in economics, and I own a Comic Con, which is a pop culture convention.
Oh,
It's called
cool.
Branson Con. I used to live in Branson, Missouri, and so hosting large events, 5,000, 6,000 people, 2, 3 day weekend events is something that I love to do. I'm a huge nerd.
Me too.
Obviously, if you own a Comic Con, you got to be a massive nerd. So
Yeah.
I am a huge nerd at heart, and hosting events is always something that I just love doing. It is a lot of work, but it is very rewarding. Just basically like having people come to an event and just seeing their faces and their smiles and just their pure look of joy over just what you've kind of created. It's just, I can't match it with anything else. So for me to basically kind of take that love for hosting events with my passion of fingerboarding, it just kind of made sense to just kind of mesh the two. And
Hmm.
so that has been basically my life since COVID. Basically, is building this chain of events, which is now the 12 city national tour.
And what cities are those, or what states? Like, do you concentrate on one coast, or do you try to include the whole country, or yeah,
Yeah,
how do you do that?
2021, we did a 4 city tour. We did Las Vegas, Denver, Chicago, and Indianapolis, which are
Hmm.
in four completely different states, not really close to each other. And
Hmm.
none of them were in my own backyard. So, like, I was hosting events, literally, the closest one was 8 hour drive away.
Damn.
So, definitely a lot of work. I am really just one person. I was able to pull off last year's tour with the help of my mom, Jewel White, my fiance, now wife, Victoria Cunningham now, And I had a buddy who's a photographer, a videographer, and he brought his friend, a photographer, and we basically made this entire thing happen.
That sounds really cool. And what cities are the ones that you're doing this year?
Yeah, we're going to start off again this year. We're going to do Chicago starting May 29th. And then we will basically head out west. We'll do Denver, Colorado, Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, Tustin, California, Montebello, California, Atlanta, Georgia, Detroit, Michigan, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Dallas, Texas, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Indianapolis, Indiana.
As someone who only knows vaguely the geography of the United States, this still sounds very comprehensive to me and very all over the place.
It is very all over the place. We try to put these cities in communities that are already established. We feel like we want to try to grow communities, but whenever you're hosting large events on these kind of a scale, it is best to obviously try to put them in communities that are already established.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I
we
recognized
strategically, yeah,
a few cities that I know where events usually are happening or people are that are doing things.
yeah. So we just kind of took that model. We are pretty excited to have our tour hit three other fingerboarding shops. So we've got Tustin, California with G8 Sessions, Montebello, California. They're like 45 minutes like between
Hmm.
the two, which are back-to-back dates. But Playhouse Fingerboard Shop as well out of
Ah,
Montebello,
cool.
California. We've also got Good Vibes out of Dallas, Texas as well. So we'll be basically hosting our events at three other fingerboarding shops. And then we've got ourselves at the end of the tour at the USFBL headquarters.
Nice. Well, we'll talk about that a bit later because I'm also very, very excited to talk about that. But let's first stick to the events.
Yeah.
What made you decide to create one big tour rather than having one big event to hold like one weekend championship or something like that?
Yeah. So I I mean, I'm a business owner, so it's one of those like whatever we do, we always look at it as like try to scale things on a larger scale. We started off small last year in 2021. We did a four-city tour, and so last year was really just kind of a proof of concept because no
Hmm.
one really has done what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well,
it makes me nervous to try to like do things that no one's ever done because usually there's a reason for it and there's always a reason for it coming into play. But basically, like we weren't sure if people were even going to show up, or if there was
hmm.
enough people to really support a tour, or there's just a lot of questions out there that no one really had the answers to. Like you can kind of sit there and kind of throw out opinions, but like there was no like facts. Like if we host an event in Las Vegas, like would people show up? If we hosted an event in Denver, like would people show up? And then we had a $30 ticket, which in the fingerboarding scene is like
A lot.
unheard of. It is an expensive
Yeah.
ticket.
Yeah.
I think the most expensive ticket I've ever came across, like just sponsoring and looking at other people's events, I think it was like $10. So like
Yeah.
we came in three times higher than like, the next highest person. So for me, it was really just like, okay, if we're gonna, we have to offset expenses and stuff like that. We have travel, we've got truck and trailer, gas, hotel stays, stuff like that. So, we've got to, try to figure out a way to try to break even. Like no one obviously
Hmm.
is getting rich doing this, but
Yeah.
it's just one of those like we had to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what people are willing to pay for, what people are willing to participate in, and what people are even like into. And so 2021 was definitely a proof of concept, just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And now we've kind of, after the tour, like we is clear as day, like what people are into, what we can do, what we can't do, what people care about, what people don't care about. So coming into 2022, we literally took all the things that did not matter or was not that big of a deal. And we literally focused on all of the things that everybody absolutely loved.
Can you give an example what you dropped and what you're focusing on?
So we last year we did 20 to 30 parks. We literally brought so you would literally come to one of our events and you could session anywhere from 25 to 33 parks depending on what city
That
we went to.
that's a lot. I don't think Fast Fingers has that many, and that's the biggest amount of parks I've seen personally. They probably have like a good 20 plus parks, maybe close to 30, but it's, I mean, the biggest event here. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot. It's we definitely overkilled it. I mean, I'd rather over deliver than, under deliver. So we literally just acquired as many parks as possible. You might even be able to scroll through our Instagram and find some of our earlier posts, just literally looking for any and all parks. Like we would buy it, we would rent it, we would trade for it. Like we were just trying to just acquire as many as possible. So when we went on tour, I'm like, the one thing that we absolutely had to get right is we have to bring a huge amount of parks for people to skate. Like,
Mhm.
regardless, we didn't do anything else right. Like, as long as you walked into a room and there was like a bunch of parks, like everybody's gonna be happy.
Yeah. It, I think that's also one of the reasons why I remembered it, because the first event I saw was, I think, the one in Las Vegas. Uh, was that your second event?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think I caught the tail end of the previous one, and then was like on Instagram for the second event and saw like your preparations for it, and I was quite baffled on the amount of parks because I was like I said, we don't even have that many at Fast Fingers, and that's in the city where most parks are made. So, um, are you bringing less parks now, or do you curate them more, or?
We are bringing less parks. So we are right now, currently, we're looking at 16. I'm thinking that
Hmm.
we can probably get it up to about 18, very large scale, 6 to 8.5 feet, basically, because the Black River parks are 8.5 feet long, but just very high end, very well scaled, like just customized parks.
Hmm.
And we are looking basically to try to scale that down. One, it's we only have our trailer is only a 7 by 16 footer, so I
Hmm.
don't really want to get another trailer just to try to haul all the stuff. So it's one of those like we've got to kind of figure out how to kind of scale things down and make transportation and stuff like that a lot easier for us.
Hmm.
So just the
And
transport issues and stuff like that we had to address, and because we were just bringing just too much stuff.
and do you also have to bring other stuff besides parks, or do you use the rest of the location where you are doing it in?
Well, the key for us is to try to host them in event centers that are
Hmm.
already capable of hosting events. So, like
Yeah.
tables, chairs, all that stuff, like they'll already provide that stuff for us. A lot of the times, food will already be provided from the venue, but if not, then we can always get that catered in. So we don't have to spend a lot of time like just transporting just random odds and end things like tables and
Hmm.
chairs and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I only peripherally know about the organizing stuff, but I've been in the Magic the Gathering scene for ages, and I go to a lot of events, or used to before COVID, and there you would have like an entry fee from like the really big events, like they're almost convention size. They usually have like around 3 to 4 thousand people there, like 2,000 in the main event. They're usually around $60, but smaller tournaments are usually anywhere from $10 to $20 entry. And like even with that, I think I heard a lot of the struggles that you were saying. Like you can't do it for like less than X amount of money if you need to carry stuff like over half the country, or if you in Magic you need to hire like judges and need a certain amount per player and stuff like that. So there's always a certain expense that comes with an event of that scale. And like I said, I don't think fingerboarders are used to that. And most fingerboard events I've been to were mostly free, and if they were charged or if they charge, they would just charge for like if you were participating. Would you also do like a door fee, or do you have like a only entry fee if you want to participate in one of the contests?
Yeah, so we've got a $30 entry fee to get into
Mm-hmm.
the venue and participate. As far as like seshing all the parks, having access to all the vendors that are, selling their
Mm-hmm.
merchandise, stuff like that. And then we've got a $10 competitor pass. So if they want to compete in any of the five categories, they can basically purchase a $10 pass for each category.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, sounds cool. And I think when you come to an event like that, it should like people will probably say, "Oh, I wouldn't need to pay anything when I go to this event," but you might only have like two parks there and not really an organizer. So this is just more as for the people at home listening. Uh, don't compare things with other things that don't match up. Like if you want to compare something like this, compare it to an event of a similar size where all the parks need to be brought in, and that just doesn't exist. And I think, like I said earlier, there's probably a reason why that didn't exist. I I think the main reason is just it's a risk, and it's also like a financial risk, and it's
Mhm.
probably more amount of work than the average like event organizer for a fingerboard event who has never organized anything before or only works with like the youth club they already go to, or the like something where they already have a connection or something in that's in their city. I have never heard of someone organizing a fingerboard event in a town they weren't like living in.
That's actually some good points and stuff as well. I appreciate the fact that you notice those things. I mean, the amount of work that it takes to put together just one event is a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
anybody who
I
hosts
know.
an event will tell you, like, it is a lot to put together one event. And
Yeah,
so most people who host events, they only host like one or two events a year, and they spread them out
exactly.
like 4 months
Exactly.
from each other.
Yeah, or do like one big and only very small. Like for example, the Aussie shop. We used to do one big event per year, or usually even one big per year every 2 years. One big event every 2 years, and I helped Timo organize one event where I did a lot of the work, and even just that one event was a lot because there's so many things you need to focus on, and people might think, oh, it's just getting a bunch of sponsors, but even that is a bunch of work, and then like handling all the registration and figuring out the venue, figuring out the schedule, figuring out what you need like on site, like or just taking inventory of the sponsor stuff you already received. Like that was also a big thing. Like, okay, who do we still have missing? What do we have? How can we structure the what we have to prizes? Yeah, or what
That's
scoring do we use? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot. So for us to literally put together a 12 city tour when we go out west, I mean, where we live, we're central in the like United States map. So we're in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is
Hmm.
literally right smack in the middle of the map. And so when we go all the way to California to the coast, that is literally a 3 day drive. It's 36 hours for us to go out to California.
That's insane. I never driven that long with a car.
And we're doing it with a truck and a trailer. So
Yeah,
we're trucking it. So
yeah.
for us, we're just in a straight line, just hitting all these cities, going all the way to the coast, and then taking a 3 day trip back. So when we leave to go out west, like we're on the road for literally 9 to 10 days.
Do you do multiple events at once, or do you do like one event per trip?
Normally we try to. Last year we just did one event per trip. We started out small, just kind of like a proof of
Mm.
concept, and then We really, all of skateboarding honestly is like just massive on the West Coast. They got the best weather. Their scene has been, I
Yeah.
mean, they pretty much founded it. So like
Yeah.
for us to not have West Coast stops would be, it would definitely be a sad face on the tour for sure.
Mhm.
So in order to include them, we have to literally do events back to back to back. So we would do an event one day and then we would literally pack everything up, take it to the next city, and then host an event the next day.
That sounds like a lot of work. Like
It is a lot of work.
even
Just
just
thinking
like
about it
setting
gives
up.
me, yeah.
Yeah. And so let's talk a bit more about the fingerboarding side of it. Um, uh, how many or what categories do you have, or what different types of contests do you hold at one of those stops?
Yeah, so each stop is going to be structured exactly the same.
Hmm.
I'm I'm old school. I'm all about routine.
Yeah.
So we will host. We last year we did novice, which is basically amateur, and then we had like a pro class. So we try to divide the two classes. This year we are getting rid of the amateur novice class, and it will only be, I wouldn't call it pro, but just be like just one big class.
Yeah.
Um, so when we are basically we're looking at five categories. We're looking at best run street, best run vert, best trick street, best trick vert, and then game of skate.
Okay.
Last year we didn't have game of skate. We had all the other categories. This year we're getting rid of the novice class and then adding game of skate just because of the amount of time it takes to try to get all of those competitive like
Hmm.
just competitions in one session, one day.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like it makes a lot of sense, and I think the getting rid of the novice class is something that I, from the outside looking in, also think is the right way to go. Because when I saw that you had like a separate class, I was wondering like how to categorize people. Because in fingerboarding, it's much different uh, to be a pro rather than in skateboarding, where it's pretty much cut and dry. And yeah, even there, yeah,
And
it
we agree.
took a
We had
bit.
some parameters basically to kind of categorize novice amateur classes. So like if you're doing best trick, if you're doing basically nollie or switch tricks, then you're going to have to get bumped up into the pro class. So if you're doing like a two-part combo, like a kickflip nose slide, for instance, and you're
Mm,
doing that in a nollie or a switch stance, then that's going to bump you up into like a pro class and not the novice
mm,
class. And like if you're doing a two-part trick or less, then you would be in the novice class. If you're doing a three-part combo or better, then it would bump you into like the pro class. So we have like some parameters and stuff
mm,
that'll like help like more effectively kind of like separate the two classes. But I do agree that like it does get a little bit complicated. And when you're basically trying to do it on such a large scale, dealing with lots
mm.
of, competitors and people
Exactly.
from all kinds of different backgrounds, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. Um, and I imagine that the game of skate takes a lot of time, right? Because you
Game of
would
skate,
probably
yes.
need to do that in do that just two people against each other, or do you do it in groups of like four or five people at once?
We'll do it tournament style. So it'll be head to head
Mm.
tournament style. I don't want to get a timer involved. We do a local indie league. We've got our own storefront here, so we host all of the like the categories and stuff locally here. So we
Ah,
basically try to
cool.
like get all the kinks and stuff out as
Yeah,
far
it
as like
sounds
what works,
sounds
what
good.
doesn't work. Yeah, so it's easier to do it in our store in our own backyard than it is to take it on the road and try to figure it out there. So we may have to put a timer on like just like how long it takes for people to try to figure out their tricks because we're noticing that like
Mm,
it's probably going to be we're probably going to try to make like a video or recommendations basically like getting people to make a list of their tricks and have it handy so they can literally just look at their list and be like, oh, I need to do this trick, instead of like trying to remember off the top of their head when you got a whole room full of people looking at you, cameras and all that stuff. I mean, you get real forgetful real fast whenever
Yeah.
the pressure is on.
Yes. And your fingers start shaking, and
Yeah, and
yeah,
you're like, man, I got to beat this guy, but I'm like, I
yeah,
can't think of a trick, and I know tricks, but I can't
yeah.
think of anything.
And that is something I know from a few other people. For example, Ben, Fingered Ben do you like?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
He used to always make a list for his opponents. Like when he played like Battle of the Gram, or when we would do one over Discord, he would always like uh, have a list ready to go, and sometimes even look at his opponents, figure out what tricks they're good on, and then scratch them from like either scratch tricks from his list or add tricks to his list, depending on his opponent. And I think just having a list of your go-to uh, is very helpful because, yeah, like you said, as soon as the lights are on, you're like, I think I can do a kickflip, but what else?
No, yeah, and a lot of people, this will be like their first time actually competing, and so there's just the nervousness of just competing. Then it's the nervousness of it being your first time competing.
Mm,
And so, I mean, it's one of those like no one wants to mess up and no one wants to, look bad in a room full of people. So, like, the
yeah,
pressure and stuff can be overwhelming a little bit.
yeah. And do you uh, do you have rules for the game of skate? Because in Berlin specifically, because in Germany it's a bit. Berlin is pretty much, I think, the strictest scene because we have people coming to the shop like weekly, like either from over Europe or just people from Berlin. And I have friends who I played probably in the 200 or 300 game of skates with, like with just that person. So we play a lot of game of skates, and we see a lot of people. We all been at plenty of events. So with us, it's pretty much there is no offensive redo, for example. Doesn't matter what. Either you take the trick and it's good, or you don't take the trick and your opponent is and it's their turn. Because I think with a lot of contests where people don't like specify things like that, it leads to circumstances where either party is not happy, or yeah.
And
So
we kind of had some issues like that as well doing it here at our local league. We've kind of, we've actually, I've been having talks and stuff with like Martine and Ollie and all them with Black Rivers. They're a huge
mm,
sponsor and stuff for us, and told them like, hey, we've been hosting Game of Skate here locally, and we've like had these issues, and like they're like, oh, you need to do it like this and like that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's a game changer. So we've actually perfected the Game of Skate rules now
oh,
based off of some of their recommendations and stuff like that to kind of help us figure out the issues that we're having, how to get past those.
mm,
And so we have it where you obviously have to call out your trick before you
yes,
attempt it. There will be two lines on the table. I don't know if you're
yes,
familiar with that whole
yes, yes,
structure.
yes,
That was the key component of Game of Skate that we were just lacking until they told us about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why the two lines are there. So you roll over the first line, and that's going to be a center compartment between the two lines, and then you do your trick in between the two lines. You land your trick, and then you roll over that second line so that you can see if you have like a, obviously using skateboarding terms, you have like a foot drag,
yeah,
or
exactly.
if it's been landing
Toe drag,
cleanly,
heel
stuff
drag,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah. So it eliminated the whole like, was that clean, was it not clean? Because if you do it stationary, like sometimes your hand like will cover things up and you can't quite see all the angles, and we had issues with it where we're judging it, we see it, and it's kind of like we kind of couldn't really tell. And then you look at the footage, and it's like, oh yeah, that was not clean at all. And
yeah.
so we had to figure that out. Like, how do we fix that? And so after that conversation and stuff with them with Black River, like we were just like, yeah, this is definitely the way.
That's really cool that you get support from them, because yeah, because the line thing I also think is quite important, because I played games against people who would do a trick stationary, and do like the same trick twice, and once fakey, once regular. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, since it was stationary, or even if they were rolling a tiny bit, like it's much easier to see what a trick is and to see if the trick was proper when you ride on, do your trick, and ride off, and don't just do it on the table like you would do at home.
Yeah, we agree. We also there's no redos on offense or defense unless you're
Oh,
on the last letter.
okay. That's also that's even more strict than the Berlin rules, but
It is a
I
little
like
bit
it.
strict,
But
but it's
I
one of
like
those
it.
like either you have it or you don't.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like I'm probably the person who has the most unclean tricks in Game of Skate against my friends, because and I think it helped me quite a lot to clean up my tricks, because like only hanging out with people that were all on the Berlinwood team or whatever, like it teaches you to not try to win the game, but to more like have a nice game. And I think just try to land new tricks and landing tricks clean. And yeah, it really helps to have parameters that help you reinforce that.
Well, being on a competitive league, I feel like it needs to be a little bit more strict than most.
Mm,
And then that way, at the end of the day, you can't blame anything or anyone. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So, like,
yeah,
if you have like multiple duos or whatever, or this, that, I mean, there's a lot of room for finger pointing, and we're just trying to figure out that weird blend where like this works for almost all cases.
yeah. And how does it work with having all those contests, or all those contests in one day? Because I've been to events where it was all one big contest of runs, or one big contest of Game of Skate, or I even been to Pateo where we did like three contests there. We did one on like two ledges, one on a stair set and one on a bowl. And the stair set and bowl ones were quite small, and the because the ledge thing was the main thing, and even that took hours. So how do you run some of the contests like on at the same time, or how does it even work to run scam skate tricks and all of that in one day for five categories?
Yeah, no, we that's a good question. So we cap the amount of competitors that can compete in each category. I
Hmm.
actually should have written all those down. I almost know it off the top of my head, but I don't want to like give out the wrong information. But let's just say it's throwing out a number. This is not the official number.
Yeah.
So let's say
Yes.
we can have 16 competitors for a game of skate. So we would literally cap it all the way up to
Mm,
16
makes
people. And then
sense.
anything over that, they just would not be able to compete in that category
Yeah,
just
makes
because of
sense.
the amount of time. So we structure the events where we open the doors at 12, and then at 1:30 we will start the actual like competition. So you can free sesh all of the parks from 12 to 6 p.m. except for Minneapolis. That's a nighttime one. We had some issues with the venue and trying to lock in that date and whatnot, but that's a nighttime event. All the other ones are going to be 12 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Mm,
And from 1:30, I want to say until 5:15, we'll basically be doing nothing but back-to-back competitions. So there's going to be obviously plenty of parks for people to sesh if they're not interested in competing. If you're one of those that like you want to sesh and then you want to like actually watch some of the competitions, then like you can freely watch the competition. So there's a lot of entertainment. There's a lot of like things going on. We've got DJs at each one of the venues. Like it's a really cool vibe. And then we've got an award ceremony that pretty much ends up the event. So we'll be giving out all the awards, prizes, medals. We had medals and all that prizes, cash prizes, stuff like that all last year. And so we're looking to redo the exact same thing this year as well. I don't know if you've seen these medals, but these medals are actually pretty legit. Like
no, or maybe I'm not quite sure.
but yeah, they're legit medals. Like we kind of went all out on these medals, and I wish I could win one, even though I can pretty much like getting them, but like it doesn't mean that like it's not the same meaning. But like, man, like I kind of want some of these.
Maybe you can do a category for most events organized over the country or something like that.
I'll have to figure out a way to get myself a medal. But yeah, they're pretty sweet medals. I'm not gonna lie.
Like you can earn points on each event for organizing it, and so you just win automatically.
And then we also are structuring our ranking system. So
Because that's also something I was excited to hear about or interested in.
well, we did a ranking system last year and it kind of works, but it's more based off of participation. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a true guide of how good someone actually is. So we've been kind of just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, trying to figure out the perfect ranking system. And after running our local league here at the shop and kind of doing the exact same thing, we realized that like what we were doing is cool, but it wasn't like a very good way of judging how good a fingerboarder is, like skateboarding does.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you don't mind, I can actually kind of run off some
Yes,
of the.
yes, I would very much like that.
Yeah, so last year we kind of combined all the categories together to where the points would carry over and they would accumulate. This year, if you do best run vert and you do best trick street, you could only be those points only go towards that category. They don't accumulate together into one
Mm-hmm.
big pooling. And that's kind of what we've been doing, and that's not a very good assessment. So you have to basically start in order. So there's no such thing as professional fingerboarders, really, not yet,
Yeah,
not at this stage.
yeah.
So maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, like we will get to a point to where there's like actually like huge contests and stuff where people are winning like crazy cash prizes and stuff like that. But at this point, we've got it to basically you're either ranked or you're unranked.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody will start off as an unranked fingerboarder. And kind of like what skateboarding does, if you let's say you do best trick street and you get first place, you will get half a point for every single person that you defeat. So to make math easy, if you get
Mm-hmm.
first place and there's 11 competitors, you would defeated 10 people to get to first place. So
Mm-hmm.
you would get 10 half points accumulating to 5 points
Mm-hmm.
for best trick street. And
Okay.
so as an unranked fingerboarder, you would just accumulate those points for each category. So if you
Mm-hmm.
compete in all 5 categories, you can start accumulating points in all 5 categories. If you
Mm-hmm.
only do it in one category, you can only accumulate it in one category.
Yeah.
The kicker is if you were to defeat a ranked fingerboarder, you would get a full point.
Mm-hmm.
And then in order to become a ranked fingerboarder, you would have to compete in at least 5 United States fingerboarding sanctioned events. So right now, all of our sanctioned events are going to be on the tour. We are looking like this fall to try to like license that out to other fingerboarding shops, other people that are
Mm-hmm.
also hosting events. I'm not saying they need to host like 5 categories or anything like that, but they may say, hey, I want to do best trick street and like host a sanctioned event where, people can actually like go to this event, compete in that tournament, and then literally get, start accumulating points that way.
Mm-hmm. And how do you handle someone being able to go to multiple events versus someone who can only go to one or two events? Do you have something like only your best appearance counts, or do you like if I go to uh, two events and I win both of those? Do I get, and let's say in the first one I defeated 10 unranked, and in the second one I also defeated 10 unranked. Would I, or let's say in the second one I defeated 20 unranked. Would I have 10 points, which would only be for my best event, or would I have 25 points, 15 points? Yeah, so you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Does only the best appearance count, or do you stack them over
they
appearances?
would get stacked over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is looking to try to basically get into our ranking system, they would need to become a league member. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't quite put together an official dollar amount. We're trying to keep everything as cheap as possible to really be able to track everybody's stats, the tournaments, where they've been, their profile, all that other good stuff online, where you can basically kind of like search and look through. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a way for fingerboarding companies to try to look for sponsored, like just potential sponsor fingerboarders, and try to restructure just how fingerboarding is kind of done. So like
Mm-hmm.
if you're a fingerboarding company and you're in this one state and you're trying to find a relatively good fingerboarder that's close by, you would be able to like search and be able to find those people. um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a way to, we're just kind of restructuring how all that stuff is done. Obviously, this is all a first time that any of this has been done in fingerboarding. So when we launch this summer, like we really want to obviously try to get all the kinks worked out and where it's just a
Yeah.
flawless system. And so, to go back to like the actual like ranking system. So like, yeah, they just get compiled on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to have 5 USA sanctioned events, and we are actually including last year's. So if you
Mm-hmm.
went to any of the ones last year's, they will also be included into this year as well. So we'll grandfather that in, and then you have to place in the top 33% of your contest results 60% of the time. So if you do 5 events, you would need to get 3 out of the 5 in the top 33%.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So if there's 9 people,
Makes sense.
you need to get in the top 3,
Mm-hmm.
or 10 people that's in that category, you need to get the top 4.
Yeah.
And then once you can achieve that 5 events, top 33% of your contest, and then do it 60% of the time, you would actually get moved up into a ranked fingerboarding category.
It sounds like you have thought this through quite a lot, and I can uh, I can see that you're uh, good with numbers or accustomed to numbers, because this sounds very structured and
It's
very
very, very structured. We've been working
yeah.
on this for months.
Yeah.
And we were close, and then we realized last year like it was more just participation based, and like, how do we tweak
Mm,
this? And I'm like, so if someone is really, really bad but they compete all the time, I like, we had it to where like it was participation based, where they can actually rank up really high with points even though they're not very good, and it would
mm,
show them being better than a lot of people because they were just
yeah.
participating. Where the new structure, like if you're not very good, you don't rank up very fast, and it will reflect that way.
Yeah.
So if you're really good, it'll have you ranking up very fast.
Yes, sounds really promising, because, like I said, I haven't heard of anything like this anywhere. Like I said, in Germany, it was done up until 2003, I think was the last one. If you if you have or have seen Pissing Fingers One, uh, there's footage in there from that tour.
I don't think I've
Uh,
actually seen the original. I
yeah,
own the
it's
third one on DVD, and I think I've seen the second one on YouTube.
all three are on YouTube,
Okay.
so you can check that one out. And uh, they uh, they did like stops in skate shops or in youth clubs or in like skate halls. Like that's a very common thing in Germany. And yeah, they would just bring like one park, I think, and yeah, have one event there. And I think it was only 4 or 5 stops, and only across Germany, which, like I said, you can drive through all of Germany in like 12 to 14 hours, like without needing to uh, put the pedal to the metal. So
I wish
yeah,
that was the case here.
yeah, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because the whole thing just sounds massive, and I really like when people put work into stuff for a hobby. So yeah, just based off of that, I want to talk to you, because this seems like something that's, yeah, like I said, just hasn't been done before, and sounds really cool. Like I'm a bit jealous now, and I'm a regular at the Aussie shop. I think a lot of people are jealous of of me. So yeah.
No, yeah, that's awesome. I'm thankful for all the kind words. That's awesome.
And just one question out of curiosity. Um, why did you decide on vert versus pool? Like, or do you have like, is the vert contest just like a big mini ramp, or is it a pool? Or
So so Black River has sponsored our tour. They are like all in and all 100% behind us.
nice, nice.
They
It's great
have
to
made
hear.
us, yeah, I know. I'm super. I mean, they were like the sponsor pack that they sent us for last year was just absolutely phenomenal. It was way over the top. Like they went like I had expectations and they literally smashed through those expectations tenfold.
Nice.
Like super
That's
super
awesome to
happy.
hear.
But I mean, they are making us a custom game of skate table.
Oh,
So
sweet.
we're looking at probably a one-of-one custom game of skate table. I know you're familiar with the big mini dose.
Yes. So the or is the big mini DOS the new one? No, that's the mini
No, that's
mini.
the mini mini.
Yeah.
It's the bigger version of that. It's the huge
Which
vert ramp.
one? Yeah. I mean, I know the big mini. Is the big mini DOS a special version? Yeah. Because the big mini has been around for as long as I've been in the scene. So yeah, uh, the classic big mini. Yeah.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
are actually making us a custom version of that for the tour. So we'll have a custom vert ramp. It's going to be a version of the big mini dose for the vert competition. And then they are also making us a one-of-one custom street park for the street portions of the
Oh,
competitions as well.
that's really cool. So it will be the same park across all stops.
Correct. Everybody will have the same starting point. So whenever you're looking at other people's competition runs and stuff like that in different cities, and you can be like, oh,
Hmm.
okay, like that's how he did. That's the run. That's the routine that he decided to choose. And it was a really cool experience when we did that last year in 2021. So we actually originally started off doing the bowl competition.
Hmm.
We had a massive dark matter. That's a company. He makes really, really, really good like custom pieces. So he made a Vans pool. It's like massive. It's like
Yeah,
a
I think
4 feet
I've seen
by
that
four
one.
feet,
Yeah.
and it's concrete. And that's where a lot of our problems like arise. So if you're transporting things on the road and you got long distances, and especially with concrete, doesn't make a good combination. So when we arrived to our first event, we had some casualties with the bowl and ended up not being able to do the bowl competition since that was our
Damn.
primary bowl like park. So honestly, in a weird way, it was kind of a good thing because it is very, very difficult to film in a bowl because of all of the
Mm,
nooks, crannies, and angles. So
yeah.
it's something that we could have done, but we would not be able to document it very well.
Mm. So are you documenting the like each contest, like each? Uh,
Correct. So we will have footage of all of the runs, all of the tricks,
that's really
every one of
cool.
the cities. We did that last year, and I mean, if you want to talk about some serious work, like hosting events is some serious work, but literally all of the editing that goes behind all of the events is
Yeah.
like a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Do you do that yourself as well?
I do not. Brian
Okay.
O'Neill with Ozarks Marketing Group did a lot of the stuff for us last year. This year, we're working on trying to put together a like two, maybe even a three-man team to try to be able to get all of the edits and stuff like that out. Our biggest
Yeah.
problem was we were not expecting that much content. And so we got bottlenecked last year trying to get all of that footage out, all of those edited
Mm,
photos out. I mean, it's time consuming. So it's like you got to get a team together that's literally
yeah.
dedicated to just doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked on like documenting like big parties and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
even that like just like I once had an event where I was in charge of like two cameras at a photo booth, and I think we had another two cameras that were like roaming around. It
Yeah.
was like a party with like 2,000 people, something like that. And even like even that limited amount, like no video, no editing, like even that was a lot of work because we needed to keep track of SD cards, of like where to upload the files and how to transfer them. And so I can only imagine that that's a big bottleneck to keep track of everything and get everything to the people who need to process it. And yeah,
And then just getting it all done in a timely fashion because
yeah,
everybody is super excited to see their
yeah,
clips, see all their stuff. So like,
yeah.
it would take us weeks.
Or
We
see
had
their
like one
buddies
city
like
that
when
would
they
take like
weren't
a month
able.
and a half.
Yeah,
And so that's just way, way too long. So like we are working very, very hard to make sure that we document everything a lot better and then basically being able to push all that content out as fast as possible.
yeah. And I think that's where the Magic player in me is very excited because a huge part of Magic the Gathering or competitive Magic the Gathering is when events are happening, all the lists of all the people, like everyone is playing a list of 75 cards, and all the lists are published after the event for like the top X people or something like that, and or with a specific record. So we would pour through all those lists and be like, okay, what did this person play, or why did this person advance and I didn't, even though we were playing the same thing. And so that is something I could really sink my teeth into with fingerboarding. The whole like, okay, why did this run score good, or because for example, we I have a friend here in Germany or in Berlin, Ramon Angelo. I think a lot of people know him. Probably more people know him than know me. But yeah, he's very specific about his contest runs. He would do pretty much no flip tricks in any of his contest runs in the first round or second round, and he would just focus on riding stay on, riding every single part of the park, and basically he's running around the park like 3 times and doing everything first try, versus someone who would do like really gnarly stuff but takes like 3 tries or 2 tries, or yeah, just like seeing all those different strategies and seeing what works. And I would find that very fascinating if it were like a league in Germany, for example, where I would participate, just to see, okay, what can I do to give me the biggest edge? Uh,
And those
yeah,
are all really good strategies. I've seen, I mean, honestly, the key to running a very good run is to try to use the most amount of park as possible.
yeah,
Consistency, honestly, like you can do very basic tricks, but if you like just do not like ever just fail or just, just bail any of your tricks and you run a very consistent run, it'll actually run you pretty good points. And then if you can try to save your last like 5 or 10 seconds for like just an all out banger trick, that is the time to kind of
mm,
do it. You want to do it at the end of your run, not at the
yeah,
beginning or the middle, so that if
yeah,
you do have a bunch of bails, it's not going to count nearly as hard as it is if it's going to be at the beginning or the middle of your run. So
yeah,
if you got a 45-second run and you just do nothing but consistent tricks, and then that 35 seconds in, you're like, all right, we're going to do this switch nollie tray crook grind, whatever it is, that banger trick that you have, like
yeah,
try it then. And like, if you land it, awesome. You killed your run. If you didn't land it, it's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but it's okay, because
yeah,
it's at the tail end and it's not going to like hurt you
yeah.
nearly as bad.
And how many judges do you have at each event? And do you judge over categories, or because I also judged a couple events, and that's something I was always very passionate about, was the judging and
No, we
how it
agree.
works.
We are a minimum of 2 judges
Hmm.
for us because we're a travel. We are trying to find those key personnel judges in each of the cities that we go to, just because we really can't afford to take someone along just to judge.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
So it is, our personnel is definitely going to be the absolute crucial part of the tour, to be honest with you. Like, we have the capabilities of just killing the tour by myself, but it's really just developing the team to bring along and getting all the key pieces together. But we're
Mm.
looking at 2 judges minimum per, per event. I would like to have more. It just really depends on like the resources and who I've got available to me, basically, to be able to do these
Mm.
things.
It sounds like a lot of work, but it sounds also really, really cool. Like
It
I,
is super cool, super rewarding, but it is
yeah.
a lot of work.
But let's talk about a bit about what I see in your background, because for everyone listening, we see each other via webcam. You don't, and you have a bunch of parks in your background, and you mentioned earlier that you're in the USA Fingerboard League HQ. Can you tell me a bit about that? Like, where is it, and yeah, how many
Yeah,
parks do you have, and stuff like that?
well, of course, of course. So we are located on the south side of Indianapolis,
Hmm.
4005 Madison Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46227 zip code. And we are at the corner here. We've got a 3,200 square foot facility. I know you're on metric. I honestly should have probably did the conversion rate for you.
I'm doing them right now.
Okay. So the 3,200 square feet facility, it is divided into 2 large open rooms. So our first room is our Black River showroom floor, I guess is what I usually call it. We've got 7 Black River parks here. We've got the big mini dose. We've got the G6 Plaza, the G7 Plaza, the G8, the G13, the G15, the big mini dose. We've got like the Playground XL, the Spine, Big Mama. We're getting ready to we just ordered the big mini, so we're waiting on that.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah,
of course, we have
that sounds really cool. Like that one just came out,
yeah,
and
that just came out.
yeah,
So we've got that order placed. We got to wait for it to get shipped over the pond, I say, but it's the ocean. But yeah,
yeah, but that will probably also take a while, right?
yeah, it's usually a little bit of a journey, but I mean, we've got enough here to keep us occupied until then.
Yeah,
And then, of course, we'll have the 3 new parks coming in and stuff for the tour as well. We'll have that custom game escape table, that
damn,
custom big mini dose, and that custom street park as well. So we're pretty excited for those. And then we've got the back room, which we've got all the American companies are back here. We've got Renegade, we've got Dark Matter, Warehouse Rams, Finger Trolls, we've got Collect TV back here, we've got Reed Ramps. And so we've also got like a cool lounge area. We've got live TV throughout. We've got a PlayStation 5 back there that's hooked up to the internet. So you can play Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Skater XL, Call of Duty, Warzone,
nice,
all that cool stuff. So it's a really cool hangout area. And so,
nice.
yeah. And then we stay busy. Every Saturday, we host tournaments. And then once a month, we've got a big monthly event. And so we do like Best Trick Street, Best Trick Vert one weekend. We do Game Escape one weekend. Another weekend, we'll do like Best Run Street, Best Run Trick. We do our own local league here, which draws out a lot of people, a lot of competitors, and stuff like that. Gets people in
Mm,
that spirit. And then on our once a month, like one Saturday a month big event, we do like raffles. We've got prizes, just little mini games, stuff like that. It's more of a hangout, so it's really not that
mm,
serious. So like the tournaments is kind of when we're on a seriouser note, but it's still like a really fun ordeal. And then like the big event is really just more. It's kind of like I would say like a mini rendezvous. It's just people really just
mm,
come and say like just hanging out, sessioning, stuff like that. So
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important to have both kinds of events, because I always felt that in the States there was pretty much only Rendezvous like as the biggest event, or stuff like I mean, you had stuff that sorry for fingerboarding were doing, but and they were a bit more focused on contests. But the way I always felt was in Europe, pretty much every event is a contest, and in the States, most events were all about just hanging out and maybe had like a game of skate or something like that. So yeah, I think it's very cool to have that competitive side uh, shine a bit more.
no, I kind of agree. I definitely feel you there. And so yeah, we're just I'm just thankful to be able to have the opportunity to literally have a place where people can come and hang out. They can fingerboard. I mean, we've got probably the second, maybe even the third largest collection of parks in one place. Definitely the largest collection of parks that you can physically walk into a public building and such at any time.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it's one of those like, we've got vendors in here, we've got all kinds of product and stuff for sale, object like obstacles, actual fingerboards, trucks. I mean, like you can literally come in and pick up a shirt, walk out with a park, like you can do all kinds of stuff here. It's pretty cool. And so
yeah,
it's one of those like we just created this paradise for fingerboarders and it's truly unbelievable.
yeah. Like lately, the states were really started killing it with like shops opening up everywhere. Like you have so many shops right now in the states, and in Europe it's still pretty much just Aussie Berlin. And you do have a couple other locations where you can sometimes go into, like Yellowwood and Pateo and Schwarzenbach, but most of the time you need to know people. And
Hmm.
it's really cool that you have, like, I think a lot of states now have a fingerboard shop, which is insane.
Yeah,
Like,
we're one of five shops. I don't know what you would
uh,
classify Mike Snyder. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't really,
I
because,
don't know if I classify him as one. So, I mean, he's not on the list, but I do want to
yeah,
recognize, the fact that, he does do his thing and he definitely deserves to be mentioned. But I mean, like, we've
yeah,
got Good Vibes out of Dallas, Texas. We've
yes,
got Playhouse Fingerboards out of Montebello, California. G8 Sessions out of Tustin, California. There's this out of Lakewood,
yes,
California, or Colorado,
uh,
sorry.
Colorado, yeah,
Yeah, which is like 10 minutes outside of Denver. And
yeah,
so, like, we've got, fingerboard shops. I feel like they're popping up all over the place. Me, United States Fingerboarding League, Playhouse Fingerboards, and GA Sessions literally all opened up in like within a 3 month period of time last year.
yeah. Yeah, because I already talked to what was his name? Benji? No, I'm oh damn, the guy from Playhouse.
Oh,
Oh,
Baja.
yeah. So yeah,
I
yeah,
want to say that's how you pronounce it. I've met him twice and I should know this. And I'm on,
yeah, and I talked to
I
him
feel like
twice.
live TV right now, but
Yeah, yeah, same. I feel really bad for not knowing how to pronounce it, but yeah, I talked to most on that list. I only haven't talked to the guys behind G8 sessions. But yeah, it's I find it really cool and really worth mentioning, and that's why I want to shine a spotlight on those, because I think it's just cool to hear how those things are created, because I think a lot of people just complain that there's never something in their area, or that they don't know any other fingerboarders or stuff like that, but don't ever like uh, pick up the effort to actually do something or to find people. Or like I always uh, I always tell that I there's been a period, I think over a month, where I met the only fingerboarder in Helsinki, Finland, 3 times, and 3 different people, and all of those people were telling me that there's no other fingerboarders in Helsinki. So I think, yeah, people need to just try to figure out how to connect with others. And I think with Instagram, that's gotten a bit harder, because back in my day when it was only the forums, like you would constantly have threads for like where you from, like our fingerboard is here. And even though the scene was smaller, I felt the local scenes were more connected. And now with Instagram, you don't really know where someone is from. A lot of times, you don't even know what their face looks like. So I think it's much harder to find people. And yeah, if you want to have events, maybe you just have to make some.
and that's kind of where we were at. I actually started fingerboarding back in '96. I'm
Oh,
35.
so even before me, like I'm 34 and I started in 2001.
Gotcha. Yeah, I started before Tech Deck even came out. I actually remember Tech Deck coming out. I think they came out in 98. My
Yeah,
first board was a Mountain Dew promotional board with a quarter pipe that you don't have dollar stores and stuff like that over there, but we've
no,
got the Dollar General, and I
yeah,
literally, it was a $10 like combination. It was a plastic, which would be equivalent to like a Tech Deck, like quarter pipe, but had like the Mountain Dew logo over it. And then I had a
yeah.
Mountain Dew board, and that was my first board. And so, I mean, I haven't fingerboarded with another person until literally 2 years ago. So
Oh,
yeah, this is my story is absolutely nuts. Like, so I've been fingerboarding pretty heavy as a kid, and then I took probably a 9 year hiatus, and
I also
then
took a 9 year hiatus.
yeah, I mean, I went to school, college, all that stuff. I mean, like,
Same.
most college kids aren't fingerboarding, blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
anyways, COVID came around, and I was like, lockdowns and all that stuff, and so I dusted off the old Tech Deck, and I was still rocking a 25 6 millimeter. And so I went to Walmart and picked up the newest like Tech Deck, and that thing was huge. It was a 32 millimeter, and it had like aggressive concaves. And I was like, man, this is crazy. And then I guess I did some research and then found they had a wood performance series. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I like this. This is nice. And then like I started looking online and kind of seeing like, what other people are doing, if there's other fingerboarders, and and like absolutely blew me away. Like, there's just so much going on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. And I was like, man, this is absolutely wild. And so I'm looking to see like if there's any like people that like hang out and do this for fun or whatever. And the
Mm.
only flyers I could find for anybody hosting events was Colin Hudson, who owns Outcast Fingerboards. He hosted, I want to say it's May Day that I went to. No, it was in the fall. It was September of 2020. And so I went to that event, and I literally had so much fun that like I had to recreate this. I had to get more. I'm like, who else is hosting events? Who
Yeah.
else is hosting events? And so like nobody's hosting events. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I'm like, we should bring this to the world. Like there should be like events like happening in every state. Like it should be all over the place. Like my adrenaline, like I was just on this natural high, and I was just
Mm.
like, I thought about it for like weeks, and I was just like, man, like I literally had so much fun. I never fingerboarded with like another person that was actually like decent and good. And so I basically kind of went out and was like, we should like just host events. I know how to host events. I'm not going to
Yeah.
sit here and say it's easy, but you get some
It's
parks, you throw it in a
manageable.
drone and you manage
Yeah.
it, it's definitely manageable. So I'm like, yeah, we can
Yeah.
definitely do this. Like we'll do a small scale. We'll do like 4 random cities. Cause the closest fingerboard I know now is 8 hours away. And so we're like, okay, so like we'll see where the communities and stuff are. We saw like community, like just events being held in Las Vegas. We saw events being held with this out in
Yeah.
Denver. So like,
Yeah.
okay, we definitely got to go to
Colorado.
Denver. And Chicago, like I saw some stuff going down up there, some stuff going on in Milwaukee, which is too far away. And so like, all right, we'll throw Chicago on the list, and then we'll kind of see what happens. And I mean, we killed last year. Like it was just a lot of fun, and we put together some really good events.
That's so good to hear. And I can relate to the seeing a modern deck for the first time and being a bit
Oh, it's crazy. So
blown
yeah, at this
by that.
Outcast event, we saw like people had like these wide 34 millimeter, 96 millimeter like boards and like foam tape. And I'm like, man, like these are nice. These wheels, these are nice. Like I'm old school. Like I'm like, like we valued money a little differently. So like me, like $13 on a fingerboard, I can do that. I couldn't justify like $150 setup. And so like after going to that event and seeing everybody with like their Joy Colts and like their organic wheels and Black River wheels and
Yeah.
decks and all that stuff, and I was like, bro, like there is no like now I can't even like think about not spending that money on like a good
Yeah.
setup. And so like it really like was an eye opener for me. So like my whole reality literally that day just changed for fingerboarding. Like it just completely shifted and went completely to the right.
Yeah, even like even for me, and I was heavily involved in German scene back then, or not heavily, but heavily in the online scene, and I would go to each Fast Fingers every year for like 5 years in a row, something like that. And I like I had very rich parents when I was young, so I did have like the first generation of Berlin woods, and I had multiple Berlin woods, like not like a ton. I had like two Berlin woods, I think, and later I got a third one with which was the very first stack with a graphic on the bottom, and it was all like self-made by people with like very thick, like almost plasticky stuff, and everything was 26 millimeters. There was pretty much only one wheel company, only Winkler wheels,
Hmm.
and then another wheel company was doing something really unique. And the guy just came back to fingerboarding, as a matter of fact. Shout out to Joe from Eurold or Eurold. And he was doing like metal core wheels with uh, uh, like a rubber on top. And yeah, that was pretty much everything that existed. Like you had those wheels and Winkler wheels. You had no trucks. You had Berlin woods and like a handful of people who were doing their own decks, but only like maybe three companies to speak of, and everything 26 millimeter because that was the size of tech deck trucks. So when I came back and was at the shop because my wheels were falling apart and was like, hey, I need new fingerboard wheels. And I saw another guy at the shop who was setting up a 34 millimeter board. I was like, what the hell is that? Like those wheels actually turn, the trucks actually turn. You don't need to like super glue the trucks because they kept falling apart. Like, yeah, it was a real culture shock.
I just wish that I would have just stayed more serious into it. Like, I feel like I wasted so much time. Like, like taking a 9 year hiatus. Like, man, if I would have stayed with it, like I was
Same.
really, really good even for like just a skinny 25.6 millimeter tech deck. Like, I mean, I was hitting kickflip nose slides and kickflip 5.0 grinds and all that stuff on just those little bitty boards. And like, if I would have stayed with it and just like, I mean, I could be doing some wizardry stuff right now.
Yeah. Yeah, when I came back from my 9 year hiatus, I was also like, damn, I missed like the best part because in Germany, 2010 was like really the big boom of fingerboarding. Like it was at its highest probably, and I think we are again seeing a bit of an high, but nothing compared to that. And I was like, damn, I missed like all the like I was around for like the when it wasn't cool and stuff, but I would and I mean it's cool to see to see where it began, but I also would have liked to see it at its highest and see it like yeah succeed and see all those
Yeah,
companies
no, I
pop out
agree.
and yeah,
It's like
but
I missed a huge chunk of history, and it's like very hard to find it because it's not fingerboarding for the most part is very undocumented.
that's actually one of the reasons why I started this podcast because I felt the same thing, and that's why I wanted to talk to people like Martin Ehrenberger or old heads like Tobias Fieler, who back in the day was one of the most influential fingerboarders, or Fabian Schreiter, who's now a very good friend of mine. Like we've known each other for like 20 years now, all over fingerboarding, or people that have just been in the scene forever, like Manu Oberle, and people from outside Germany who continued fingerboarding or into their own countries and into their own scenes. And I I find it very fascinating to talk to people like you who just decide to just do something about not having events. And
Well, I
yeah.
just saw just a whole. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are actually hosting events and stuff like that. Look, with hindsight 2020 and stuff, but it's still very few and far be like in between, just because the
Mhm.
nation is so large for us. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I sponsor every single event that I see just so that I can try to help grow the scene and just encouraging more people to kind of host events and stuff themselves. I do a lot of mentoring, stuff like that. I've helped like 4 or 5 people that were like, I kind of want to host an event, but I have no idea how to go about doing it. And so
Mm,
I've helped people literally like set up and host their first events, and they're like, bro, this is so much fun. This is so cool. Like, I can't wait to host another one. And
yeah,
so it's very, very rewarding, but it's like, I mean, there's at least 16, 17 states that do not have a single fingerboarding community that's established.
yeah,
So we still got a long way to go here in the States for sure. And I don't think I'm that guy that can honestly, like, try to get to every one of these states, but it's, everybody does their part. And I feel like, overall the whole scene will just benefit together.
yeah, and yeah. Once again, I think it's really really cool that you do that, and I I think you're succeeding if like someone from all across the pond has heard of that and has seen the stuff, and yeah, I think you're doing a really good job so far, and yeah, hope
Well,
I
thanks.
I'm excited to see how it unfolds in the future.
We are as well. I am extremely excited, also kind of nervous,
Yeah.
and because I just, I put such high expectations on myself and just others, and it's one of those like my biggest fear is just letting people down. I know that even if I just, I half ass this thing basically, like it's still going to be a really cool event, but like
Mhm.
I just have that
You
fear of
would
just
see
like
the
just letting
flaws.
people down. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so like it's one of those things that always just keeps pushes me. It's just like I've got to under promise and over deliver.
yeah. I mean that's a good way for like good advice for life anyway. Um, I would jump into a section I'd like to call the rapid fire section, even though it's usually anything but rapid.
Gotcha.
So,
Try to keep it as quick as possible.
yeah, but if you spend a bit on some of those answers, that's absolutely fine. Um, so, what are your favorite wheels?
My favorite wheels are abstracts.
Yeah. Um, and I'm already jumping in and making this not rapid. Uh, didn't Redemption, who make abstracts, also used to have a location, like a store where you could walk in?
That
Or
I am not sure.
because I thought they did, but I checked and they now don't. So yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that I'm not sure. And it's
Hmm.
hard to find out because a lot of stuff's undocumented.
Yeah, yeah, that oftentimes has been a problem for me. Like when I try to, like now I know that TechDake got founded in '98, and I also know that Black River got founded in '99 and Berlin Wood in 2001. But I only know that stuff because I talked to people from all over,
Mhm.
and you can't find a lot of that information online. Like Black River, you can obviously find on the stickers, but you would usually need to ask people, hey, was Berlinwood founded in 2000 or 2001, or when did TechDeck come to Germany? And yeah, so
No, I agree.
yeah, but yeah, what's your favorite deck and shape?
Deck and shape would be double joint popsicle.
Hmm.
It fits me perfectly. I probably ran through about 30 companies. All of them are good in their own way, but for some reason, like the shape of that popsicle just it fits my size fingers and my just style of tricks perfectly.
Yeah, I know that feeling of trying everything and just finding what you like. Um, what's your favorite trick on flat?
Favorite trick on flat? Varial flip?
And what's your favorite trick on an obstacle?
Probably like a combo or just like a single trick.
Like your favorite trick to do on an obstacle? For me, it's usually the one I do first whenever I go to an obstacle, like the one that
Oh,
just like
gotcha.
doing.
It'll be a backside blunt shove it blunt combo. I'm
Oh yeah,
pretty notoriously known for this thing. I do it like probably better than if like 50 people on the planet can do it. I would probably say I do it probably the top five. best. Like that
And
combo is like in my sleep, I can do it.
and that's something I can't do. Like I'm generally not good at combos. Like I'm very good at flipping into stuff. Like that's like my strong suit. I'm horrible at flipping out or doing anything while I'm on a ledge or on a rail. So
So
yeah.
that's my opposite. So like because of how I started before the internet. Well, I
Mm,
mean, like the internet was boo boo back in like '96. I mean,
yeah.
so like I didn't have access to people doing crazy things on fingerboards. So we just emulated like what skateboarders were doing at the time. So like,
Mm,
I mean, the most intense thing you saw in skateboarding, I mean, we're gonna set Roddy Mullen aside, but like you do like a kickflip, no slide, kickflip out, you know, and that was like
yeah.
a big like if anybody did that trick, you were being sponsored. And
Yeah.
so like for me to
Yeah.
be able to like do those like tricks that are all basically like they came down to like five tricks, which is like the kickflip, pop shove it's, tray flips, and varial flips, really. And like everything was comboed off of that. So like I pretty much have those four tricks down, but I combo those like crazy. And
Mm,
so nollies, switch tricks, stuff like that really didn't exist back then. So like my game of skate, like level of like competition is like for me personally, like I'm trash. Like I cannot game a skate like at
yeah.
all. Like I got like seven tricks and like that's it. And so like, but my combos are heavy. Like I can
Yeah.
probably, if I had to literally make a spreadsheet, I can probably get a good 70 combination tricks and stuff like out. Like
And
it's crazy.
I'm currently trying to film a part where it's mostly combos or lines, and I end up doing a lot more lines than combos because a lot of my combos I usually do shove it out or do like yeah something simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not too shabby. I need to honestly, I need to start filming more. I've got all these parks and like I don't film at all. Like,
I mean, I only film when I have like a reason to. Like, I filmed a part for Five Luck, who I write for, a year ago or like 9 months ago, and still sadly hasn't come out yet. But it's done and just waiting for the right opportunity.
okay.
But yeah, and the only reason I'm filming now is because there's a video project that's coming out soon, and I need to yeah just I'm already too late for that, so I just need to haul ass a bit and yeah, yeah. What's your favorite music song right now?
Music song. I've been listening to a lot of heavy metal lately.
Your y- yeah, that's music to my ears.
So like probably Saving Alexandra, anything by them. Um, man, I actually got on a Limp Bizkit kick lately too. I got back into that. I heard a song randomly and I was like, man, what happened to them? So like I've been like secretly listening to Limp Bizkit in my car for the last 3 days.
I haven't listened to anything Limp Bizkit past Chocolate Starfish. I
Okay,
think.
that's a good yeah. I get so hyped when I hear like rolling and stuff like that. I'm like,
Yeah,
man, I get so hyped.
yeah, and I mean some of those things are still classics. I mean, Rolling, everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Um, Uh, do you prefer outdoor or indoor fingerboarding?
Indoor.
Yeah, I can imagine. Um, what's your favorite obstacle?
Anything that is a ledge or squared. So like a
Makes
square
sense.
rail or a ledge.
Yeah. Concrete, wood, or granite?
Mm,
Granite
tough
slash marble.
question. I would probably say wood because that's primarily what I fingerboard on the most. But I love the feel of granite and concrete.
Yeah, yeah. I like concrete a lot.
Granite
I
just feels good. Doing like a mani combination on like a granite like ledge or mani
yeah
pad, like that's extremely satisfying.
yeah. On my park, I only have like the floor of granite, But yeah, everything else is concrete. But yeah, granite can also be quite good. Like my main problem with wood is it's so loud, and when you're fingerboarding in a flat, like here in Berlin, I live in a flat with like I think there's around 20 flats in my building, and yeah, and we're part of like a big street where every building is like that. So
That's
yeah,
understandable for
I
sure.
like I
I'm
can't
thankful to
make
have
that
this
much
job.
sound. Yeah, because in a shop it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
the Black River Wood Park is loud, but at home I I really I redid my park mainly for that reason because I felt uncomfortable fingerboarding past a certain hour because I was like, yeah,
No, I completely understand that as
yeah,
well. Like, it is definitely very, very loud. I know. I remember I used to literally annoy the crap out of my parents because you just hear the click
same,
clack like
same.
all the time.
Yeah, I only had wood ramps back in the day. I built
Oh, I
everything,
had the
and
plastic stuff, like all the tech stuff, and that's like the loudest.
I uh,
It's so
I
hollow and it just tings.
I think I still have never ridden a Tectagram because they were just never available in Germany. Like you wouldn't see them at like a big store or like I don't think I still haven't ridden one. And I mean I don't really feel like it, but yeah.
No, I understand. They're great starting out. They're just not scaled to size to where they're really enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always what I see online. They always
Like
look
if they
so
made them
tiny.
twice as big, like Tech Deck would
Yeah.
literally take over the entire like obstacle game. Like they make
Yeah.
great obstacles if they were scaled to size.
Yeah. And then just fill them with concrete and
Yeah,
then they don't move around and you're good to go. Um, Nollie, switch regular, or fakie?
fakey.
Do you have hobbies outside of fingerboarding?
I am a childhood chess prodigy. And then
Oh,
I kind of got out of it for about 20 years. And then as I relocated here to Indianapolis, there is a huge chess community. And I mean like ranked chess and all that stuff, like big league chess. And
nice.
so I am recertifying for my chess card, and I am excited to get that in the mail hopefully soon and actually start participating back again into that. It's also how I kind of structured the rankings and stuff as well. So I kind of based a little bit off of skateboarding and a little bit off of how chess is basically ranked.
If everything in Magic the Gathering is based off of chess, like we used a Swiss tournament style with points for draw, for advance, and matching people, and
Yeah,
like that's basically the only thing I know about competitive chess is that they invented what like we like when I go to tournaments, I always ask the other people, okay, if I win this round, can I draw the next one to get this and that standing at the end? And they will like always like calculate that stuff in their head because it's so well known here in the or at least in Magic that system is like ingrained into us.
understand for sure. But yeah, I've always been playing chess off and on, but like I'm pretty excited to have that community back here and get back into that. But
I can
I play
imagine.
chess and I play Call of Duty like crazy.
Nice. I'm more of a Counter Strike player, but I'm also
Okay,
like
okay.
very bad and very casual. Like I play like 3 games a week, and then I hate it again for a week.
No, understand. I probably play a little bit more than I really should be, but yeah.
Do you have a favorite fingerboard video?
I own a lot of fingerboarding videos. So like I've got a lot of the older Tech Deck stuff on VHS. So I've got like Fingers of Fury. I've
Oh,
got
nice.
Flying Fingers. Um, those two are really, really good. Every now and then I'll like hook up the VCR and like hook it up to my like crazy like high def TV and watch the extremely bad pixelated version of it. But like it's like Fingers of Fury is probably my favorite from Tech Deck.
Yeah,
I don't really know if there's like, I mean, like, I like the classical stuff just because that's what I grew up on. I
yeah.
know like Mike Snyder's made a full length 2020, which is pretty good. Um, Outcast made a Sorrow movie back in November 2021 that was actually pretty good as well. He's local to
Oh,
us. We did a video premiere for him.
oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually seen too many professional fingerboard full lengths, to be honest with you. I mean, there's pissing fingers and all that, which is good. It's not like it's just structured differently than I think I would like. But
Mm,
I'd probably say Tech Fingers of Fury, definitely Mike Snyder's 2020 video, like full length, like hour and a half long video deal,
yeah,
and then Outcast is Sorrow.
nice. And I need to check out Sorrow because I don't think I've seen that one.
It just got released last November, November 19th. So, I mean, it's only like 3 months out. So it's not like crazy, crazy, like long, but definitely check it out on YouTube. I think it's uploaded there.
Hmm. Yeah, I made a note and we'll check it out later. Um, what's your favorite Black River park?
Oh, hit me where it hurts.
Because usually this question is quite hard because usually most people don't know like, is this like the G15 or the G13 or the G8 or yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like, if literally, like, the building was on fire and, like, I
yeah.
had to literally save one of these parks, like, I don't honestly know that I can really give you that answer. I would probably say the G8 would be my favorite.
I mean, it's like the classic
It is a
modern
classic. It's got everything
one.
that you ever would want for a park. I mean, it's got a huge transitional half pipe. It's got the mani pad, which is probably my literally favorite thing on the entire park. And then, it's got the little Humpty Hump on one side. I mean, it's a
I
good looking park.
I despise those wobbles. Like I don't know why I like if I would have that park, because that's also my go-to, I think,
Hmm.
and I would just replace all that stuff with something I can actually ride.
I mean, it's cool. It's not. I mean, it's hard to skate it just because it's not something that normal people would, try to
Yeah,
skate it. So, like, in order
I,
to like get from one hump to the other hump, I mean, you got to get some serious hang time, and like, I mean, you got to.
and like I think I would like it much more with only two humps, because like doing a trick from from one to the other is quite manageable. But then landing again and having the third wobble, it's like I don't know. But it's a cool park.
It is a cool park nonetheless.
Yeah. Flat ground with obstacle or a park?
Once I'm kind of like a park collector now. Like, it's hard to go back.
Yeah.
Like, I see like everybody's like, "Oh, you should get this obstacle," and I'm like, I don't really know if I need an obstacle when you got all these parks. So I'm gonna have to
Same.
go with parks.
I have pretty much no obstacles that I didn't build for my park because my park is basically a giant collection of
Right.
obstacles because it's the whole modular thing. But I never like every time, like I have 3 or 4 benches now, and yeah, I don't really know what to do with them because it's like, yeah, I like them, but yeah,
And that's how I was. I had a huge collection of obstacles, and then once I started getting into the park game, it like the obstacles kind of became obsolete.
yeah. And I think with fingerboarding, like skating a park is much more akin to skating street on the big skateboard. At least how I see it. Because it's like for me, it's always if you film at home, like if you sit at home with your obstacle, that's I relate that to a skate park. Like if you film a clip there, it's like in a controlled environment, you know that that's pretty much the skate park thing. But if you have fingerboard park, usually you don't get to ride it all the time, and it's something you can't change something there. You have to work with what you got. So I relate that much more to like street skating and on the big board. So yeah, that's also a reason why I like it so much because it's totally different from just riding one obstacle.
I understand, yeah.
Heel flip or kick flip?
Kickflip.
Do you have a favorite fingerboarder?
Probably Nico Frank.
He is a good one.
He is a good one.
Uh, what's your favorite food right now?
Favorite food? I'm a fat kid, so like, I mean, I've got like, I mean, I can probably eat tacos for the rest of my life, so I'll probably go with tacos.
Um, yeah, I also just had tacos a couple days ago. So yeah,
I mean, they're
that's a
just
good
good.
one.
They're good anytime. They're good for
Yeah,
breakfast. They're good at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, they're just good.
yeah, yeah. And I had the leftovers as breakfast the next day. um, do you have a favorite skateboarder?
I really like Shane O'Neill. I think his style is just buttery. I mean, he has just the steeziest tricks.
Makes sense if you like Nico Frank to also like Shane O'Neill because I think they fit a very similar mold
Yeah, I can
on the
see that now
various
that you pointed
boards.
that out.
Yeah. Loose or tight trucks or medium? And what is
Medium.
medium? And what is medium for you? Because pretty much everyone says medium. And when I tell people that I ride medium, people be like, no, you ride hard trucks.
Gotcha. I would say, I mean, like loose to me is literally where like your truck just freely dangles. Like you can
Yeah,
turn
when it
it and then like,
rattles.
yeah,
Yeah,
it'll rattle. Like
yeah.
you can turn it and the truck literally moves with the board. That's loose to me. So I would say literally in between that and being like so tight it doesn't move at all.
Okay. Um, what was your last personal NBD? So the last trick you did, you never done before, or a big trick for you, or
I learned a new combo about 3 days ago in the Big Mini Dose, which is the
Mhm.
giant like Black River half pipe. I did a varial flip to blunt slide up the extension, kick flip
Mhm.
out.
That sounds quite good. Um, do you prefer to have one setup or multiple setups?
I like one setup, but I like the same setup 3 different times. So like
I have that as well.
I have three of the same boards with the exact same setup. And so like I have one for like in my car, I have one that I keep here at the shop, I've got one I keep at the house. So like no matter where I'm at, I have basically like the exact same setup and it's like I feel like my fingerboard is like my avatar. Like you once you
Mhm.
sink into your fingerboard, like you turn into X Games mode, like you're good.
Yeah.
The thing that I hate is when like I go to like an event and then like I test out like someone else's board and then I go back to mine and it doesn't feel right like
Okay.
immediately after. Like I hate that. I love it and I hate it at the same time.
Yeah, I like having multiple setups. Like I can pretty much write anything. Like I I don't like old school shapes, but anything like popsicle-ish, I can write any length, any concave, any yeah. But I also found what I like. So I have like I also like having the same board a couple times, but I have it with different configurations of trucks and wheels. For example, I have two decks in my hand right now. One is my go-to main setup with Black River trucks and the the wheels where I ride the wheels I ride for Hard Sphere, and the other one has dynamics and joy codes. So it's very yeah. I like having the different things, but I also pretty much never write the other setups. So even though I have 10, I always write the same one, and I always have one go to, and yeah, that's the one I never leave home without.
No, that makes sense. I hear that a lot, especially locally and stuff like that. I see people with two, three, four different setups that they'll use. And for me, it's just learning that balance of your board and being able to like sink into your board, especially for a lot of these more complicated combos and stuff. Like
Mm.
you gotta really, really know your board.
Yeah, that's also true, and that's also why I like. Oh, I actually found another one of the same deck. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I also like having one thing that you really know because you know how it flips, you know how it turns, it shovels. You, yeah, it's just. it's very minor, but you notice it after a while. And I
Mhm.
think that's the thing with fingerboarding in general, because everything is so small. You notice when a board is like 31 millimeter instead of 32, or 33.3 instead of 33. Like,
And
yeah.
that's the problem with, like, people like us who've been doing it for so long, is that you really know all the little different, like, if I was to literally replace the bushings in my deck right now, like, it would probably literally throw me off. And so, like, if you haven't been doing it very long, like, you may put bushings on, you like, you might notice maybe that it's, but it, like, you'd still, like, it
Mhm.
wouldn't, like, phase you, kind of a thing. And, like, little
Yeah.
minor changes like that to me, like, literally would throw me off for a good couple days.
Yeah, I have like a certain like wear amount on my tape, where to most people the tape still seems totally fine, and for me I'm like, no, I can't write this anymore. I need to throw in a new sheet, and I pretty much always have like a at least one big pack of FBS tape at my house, so I have tape every time. Like
I
I never run
literally
out
am
of
the
tape.
opposite. I will run my stuff into the ground. I will run my boards into the ground. Like, I know you can't see, like, on the, like, the viewers
Yeah.
and stuff, but I mean, like, that's my daily shredder. I mean, it is. You can't see the graphics. You can't see nothing. I mean, I'll just slap a new deal of tape on it, and I'll write it until literally it just isn't functional anymore.
Okay. And for me, like there comes a point in which uh, I notice like a very small amount of pop losing out of the deck, and the decks I write, they last very long. Like when I wrote other decks, I would cycle out or run through decks like every 3 months, like every 3 to 6 months, and a
Mhm.
deck had no pop left. And
That'll
yeah,
happen with
now
my
it's
car fingerboard for sure. The one I keep in
okay.
my car because it gets hot
Yeah,
and cold and all
yeah,
that stuff. Like,
yeah.
but if I didn't have it and I found a spot, then, like, I'd be very upset. Like, I
Yeah,
couldn't touch that spot. So it goes with the territory, I guess.
yeah. Um, do you like plastic or urethane wheels?
Urethane.
What's your most hated trick in a game of skate?
Anything switch, anything nollie, front finger impossibles absolutely destroy me. I'm getting better at them, but my trick list is not very long. Like I said, I probably got
Yeah,
7 flat ground tricks to my name, and, like, but my combos are heavy. Like, if you play game of skate on a park, like, I would destroy you. But, like, flat ground, like, I am not very good.
yeah. Like I have like very go-to park tricks. Like I have tricks I hit much more frequent, and they usually like flip trick into a grind, and that's why I'm like decent at a park, but definitely once someone figures out that I can't really flip out of stuff, it destroys me quite fast. And on flat ground, I have a lot of tricks. Like I'm decent at nollie and switch, so yeah, that's like the only trick I really can't do is like nollie and switch inward heel and switch 360 pop shove it, and I'm getting better at those. But yeah, it's
Yeah, those are hard tricks for sure.
but I mean, doesn't mean that I land everything. Like,
No, I
but
understand, but it's
I,
always
I
good to have
technically
those
can.
under,
Yeah.
just under your inventory of tricks.
Yes. Um, do you have a favorite beverage?
Favorite beverage? Man, I have diabetes, so I am,
Mm,
like, sugar free right now. So anything Diet Mountain Dew would definitely, like, they got crazy flavors out here in the United States, so any of that would do. But before diabetes, orange soda. Oh man, pretty much anything sweet, even like alcoholic drinks and stuff like that. I mean, like those. I mean, I can't really get into
uh,
like a lot of those either, but just because all the sugar content. But
uh,
I miss sugar to be
yeah. Can I'm
completely
I'm try
honest.
I'm trying to cut down on my sugar because I gained a lot of weight during lockdown, and yeah, so cutting down on sugar is definitely tough. Uh, so yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I heard
must
that.
be
So
rough.
Yeah, I mean, it's theoretically, I mean, like diabetes kind of saved my life. I honestly think that I probably live about 15 years longer now just because of the fact that I'm more aware of what I'm eating, what I'm putting in my body, stuff like that.
Mm,
And so, like, when I got diabetes, it wasn't even a shock. Like, I mean, I would just eat sugar like it was just going out of style, and I did it for
yeah,
decades. So, like, when it happened, like, I was sad, but I'm like, yeah, I kind of understand. Like,
yeah,
it was
kind of had
definitely
this
like, yeah,
coming.
it's not like it just hit me out of left field. Like, well, how did this happen? And it was like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, like as I'm eating candy, as they're like telling me I've got it, like
yeah. When like I had a similar feeling when like I injured my left arm when I tried to get back into skating like 3 or 4 years ago, and now my left arm is not really functional. Like I can do stuff with it, but yeah, it's definitely not even close to normal. So when I was a kid, I broke like my arm 5 times, and that was the only thing I ever broke, and it was always my left arm. So
that's fine.
when I then broke my left arm a couple of years ago, and it turned out to be like very bad and uh, like being a permanent injury, I was like, yeah, I kind of had it coming. Like, was I could have seen that one.
Yeah,
Um,
that's rough too.
yeah, but I mean, it's manageable. Yeah, so I think living without sugar is much worse.
I would agree. I would definitely like rather not have a left arm and be able to eat as much sugar as I could than to have a left arm and not be able to eat sugar. So
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Um, do you have sponsors outside of the events you host?
Like as a fingerboarder,
Yeah, yeah, as an
I
individual.
theoretically am like a self. Like it's so weird. So like I pretty much sponsor myself.
Mm,
I'm a day trader. Like that's where like the primary source of my income comes from.
yeah,
And so like if I want to go to an event, I just go to an event. Or, if I need
yeah,
to buy a new setup, I just buy a new setup. So I
yeah,
never really needed like a sponsor for, just to be sponsored.
yeah,
I've always just been kind of like just did my own thing, and then hopefully people will just kind of be like, oh, that's cool what he's doing. Like I should maybe join him or be a part of it or whatnot. But I don't really like sponsors for me are kind of different than sponsors for everybody else.
mm. Yeah. I also feel that sponsors in fingerboarding usually happen at a point where you don't really need a sponsor anymore.
Usually
'Cause-
that's how it always is. Like when you're starting out, everybody wants to be sponsored. And then once you're
yes,
like established and stuff, then you realize that like sponsors aren't really like that important to you anymore.
but also in skateboarding, like where it actually revolves like skateboarding is actually your primary source of income, and also decks wear through much faster on a big board because even when I go through a deck like in half a year, that's much faster than the average
And
fingerboarder.
that's true. The game has definitely been structured differently between fingerboarding and skateboarding for sure.
Yeah,
Setups don't last very long. Setups can break. I mean, if you do a gnarly, 15 stair gap and you land on that
yeah,
board wrong, you'll snap it. And so,
yeah,
like, having a board sponsor and stuff like that is definitely, definitely way more beneficial than having like a board sponsor as a fingerboarder, just because, like, I've been riding the same setup for almost a full year. And
yeah,
so to sponsor me, like you just give me $150 worth of stuff a year and I'm good for a year. And
yeah,
so
same.
it's not quite the same.
Yeah, like the bird from Five Luck recently went away for like almost 9 months. So like when he went away, I still had stuff to ride like without even getting close. Like now I'm running a bit dry, but it's not like you actually need new stuff. Most of the times it's like, yeah, I kind of want a new board or I want a new set of wheels or like especially with urethane when you ride a lot of like
Mhm.
rougher surfaces, that's actually the one that wears through much quicker than most of my other fingerboard components because I flat spotted wheels before, like multiple.
No, definitely. The one other thing that people don't realize too is like when people compete at events, those events are costly. They're costly to enter, they're costly to join. There's travel that, because 99% of the time, like if you were to do a competitive skateboarding event, that event is like on the other side of the country. And so,
Yeah.
you'd have to catch a flight or you have to, there's going to be some financial like obligations that go to, needing to be sponsored and stuff as well. So like if you're sponsored with a skateboarding company, like they're gonna pay for your flight, they're gonna pay for your hotel.
Yeah.
And so like for skateboarding, right now, like it's important to get sponsors because they'll help cover those costs. Fingerboarding, which, we're kind of pushing that into, pushing that aspect into that direction. But as of right now, like, there really isn't any other events out there that's pushing people to really kind of compete, looking for sponsors, stuff like
Mhm.
that. Not yet.
But even still, I never heard of a sponsor like paying for someone's ticket, or like even if it were just like a train ticket in Germany, which if you book the correct one and don't mind spending a bit longer in the train, you can get it quite cheap. Like even that, I never heard in fingerboarding because it's like all the amounts of money are usually much smaller, and you most people that do make a living of fingerboarding do make it by making boards or selling stuff and not by writing. Yeah. 32, 33, or 34 millimeter?
I actually ride 36s, is
Damn.
what I ride. I've got a size 14 and a half ring finger. So my fingers are absolutely
Uh,
just monster sandwich, like just sausages, basically. Just
uh,
so 36 millimeter boards, 36 by 96 is what I ride. That's what I prefer.
yeah, I also prefer 96. And I had to get used to like the smaller length because yeah.
But honestly, 36 millimeter feels the best for me, but 32 millimeters are easier to do almost every single trick that I love to do.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there definitely are tricks that are easier with one setup versus the other. Like, uh, yeah, some shovels are easier with a bigger board or a smaller board. Like usually, the wider the board is, the easier it is to control in shovels. The smaller it is, the easier it is to flip stuff and to control it in the air. And I think you're right. 32 is a good compromise, but yeah, it's too skinny for me.
32s aren't bad. I mean, I grew up on 25 sixes. So, like, if
Yeah, same.
right now, Levine, like, threw this board at like 15 years ago, Levine, like, I would be literally like skating on a boat. Like, it would be
Yeah,
like, couldn't even fabricate it.
yeah. It it evolved so much. Like just looking at my old boards, they look so different. Yeah. Um, if you could choose a sponsor who would, yeah, just let's say just give you stuff and not get you to events, what would your dream sponsor be?
My dream sponsor would probably be Black River, but not for the reasons why you think. My dream sponsor would be Black River or Warehouse Ramps, mainly because they are park builders,
Hmm.
and I am absolutely obsessed with parks. Those are like, I just love them. I love them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be a very good sponsor to have. Um, do you have a favorite Instagram follow? So an account on Instagram that you like seeing new content of the most?
All right, so I follow quite a few people. I like following like a few board makers, a few like Dark Matter. He makes like just crazy parks. Renegade makes crazy parks. Tiny Ramco made the replica of the SLS park.
Mm,
They're actually like, I really love the park aspects of fingerboarding. That's like my thing. So a lot of people that I follow that I really pay attention to are people that are just like creating events, putting together crazy parks, crazy setups, unique obstacles, um, more of along like that aspect.
mm. And do you have a favorite overall company?
Overall, that's a good question. I would probably say it's going to be a handful of companies, but not for the reasons that you think. So, like this, Good Vibes, all the storefronts, people that are like just usually like hosting events. I feel
Mm,
like the market is very saturated with like just like product makers.
yes.
And so for me, like for you to stand out, you have to be able to do things that normal like people in the industry are not doing. And so a lot of people are not really hosting events. There's not a lot of park makers. I mean, I can almost name all park makers in the world like on 10 fingers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's those are the companies that like I like. Those are the companies that I really pay attention to. Warehouse Ramps, Black River, Renegade, Dark Matter, Tiny Ramco. Just basically, if you're just a park maker, you're hosting events, you're doing things like that. Like that's who I'm really paying attention to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a really good point because I also think that the product making and selling stuff is quite saturated, but yeah, people doing stuff for you to come to, and that includes both events and shops and yeah, or just organizing hangouts at friends. Like I know a couple people from the town where I'm originally from Stuttgart in the south. They were like getting together a really good scene of like just hanging out at one place like every month, and then COVID happened. But yeah, so yeah, just trying to get something going for people to come and hang out is something that I think could be done much more. And I really admire everyone who starts doing something like that. So yeah, I think this is a very, very good place to end it. Um, one, a few couple of more housekeeping things before we uh,
Yeah, of course.
bring this episode to a close. Um, uh, since I'm starting or restarting the podcast now, if any of you listening, or you for that matter, have someone that you want me to talk to or have a recommendation who I could interview, please let me know. I'm open for people who I can talk to that I haven't talked yet with. And also, Spotify now has a rating system. If you want to, you can do that, but you really don't have to. And like I said, I'm trying to do this one every once a month from now on. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. This took a lot longer than I originally thought, but it was a really, really cool conversation. I think
Yeah,
I
definitely. A lot of
enjoyed it
information.
very much, and I found it a really nice experience that you've had, or like a really nice. It was really nice to hear things from your perspective and what you were doing for the scene. So yeah, thank you for that, and thank you for doing what you're doing because I think it's really cool and really important.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and you'll catch me in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.